No one expected the human touch to heal the alien princess. Her family was shocked. The convoy moved slowly through the alien desert world of Velara. Massive ships hovered above, casting long shadows over the red sands. Princess Alira sat in her armored transport, staring out at the barren landscape. She had always traveled with caution, but this mission was meant to be simple. She was visiting a border settlement to oversee aid distribution. Her people called it a routine task, but Alira felt uneasy. The Velari Empire was strong, proud, and careful. Their borders were guarded by fleets and armies. Yet human forces had joined the alliance, helping with medical supplies and engineering. The Velari nobles were polite but distant. They did not trust humans fully. To them, humans were fragile, unpredictable, and emotional. Still, humans had skills that Velari did not, especially in medicine. Alira's convoy was attacked suddenly. An energy weapon fired from the horizon, hitting the lead vehicle. Explosions rocked the convoy, throwing soldiers and servants to the ground. Alira screamed as the armored door of her transport twisted inward. Sparks flew. The royal guards drew their weapons, but the attackers moved fast and disappeared before the main fleet could respond. In the chaos, Alira was struck by a strange beam. It burned her side, leaving marks that glowed blue. She collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. The royal guards yelled for reinforcements, but the others were already engaged in the skirmish. Panic swept through the convoy. No one dared approach the damaged vehicle. They assumed she was too badly hurt to survive. Liam Carter, a human medic assigned to the convoy, rushed toward the wreck. He was small compared to the Velari guards, and they looked down on him. "Stay back, human," one yelled. But Liam did not listen. He saw the princess lying still, her face pale under the glowing marks. His training told him to act quickly. He ignored the shouts and lifted her carefully. "Princess, can you hear me?" he asked softly. Alira's eyes opened slightly. They were filled with pain but also fear. The human's voice was calm and steady. She flinched as he touched her, but the reaction was strange. She did not recoil completely, just shivered. Liam noticed it. There was a faint warmth under his hand spreading through her arm. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to give him hope. The Velari guards shouted at him to leave. "She is dying, human. Go or be crushed." Liam ignored them. He adjusted the makeshift splints around her torso, speaking softly to keep her conscious. "I won't leave you. Stay with me." "You will be okay." Alira tried to speak, but only a small whisper escaped. "Human, stay." Liam nodded. He understood. He stayed. The convoy fell back, leaving the transport abandoned. Liam carried her to a shaded area under a collapsed metal structure. He checked her injuries. The glowing marks burned lightly. Velari medical scans had failed earlier, showing that the tissue was breaking down at an accelerated rate. He knew he had to do something different. Humans had simple ways of helping. They did not always need machines or energy fields. Sometimes care itself could heal. He set her down gently and began cleaning the burns. "This will sting a little," he said. Alira nodded weakly, gripping his sleeve. He applied a cooling gel he carried for emergencies. He watched her face relax slightly. The Velari would call it a placebo. Liam did not care. He only saw her breathing more evenly. Hours passed. The sun began to set over the red desert, painting the sands in deep orange and purple. The wind was cold, but Liam kept the princess wrapped in a blanket. He spoke to her in calm, simple words, telling her stories of human life, how people could be brave and kind even in small ways. He held her hand and she began to respond. Her body seemed to accept his touch. Slowly, her heartbeat grew steadier. "You are strange," she whispered. Alira's voice was soft, tired, but filled with wonder. "Why do you stay?" Liam smiled faintly. "Because it matters. Someone has to care." He did not explain why humans acted this way. He only knew it worked. As night fell, stars sparkled above the desert. The Velari patrols returned, scanning for survivors. When they found the princess alive with a human beside her, they were shocked. Commander Kythe, one of her uncle's top officers, stormed over. "What is this? A human? She is alive. How?" he demanded. The other nobles were silent, staring. None could explain how the princess, struck by a weapon that destroyed even armored tissue, was still breathing. Liam looked at them calmly. "I stayed with her. I treated her injuries with care, that's all." The commander snorted. "Care? Do you think touch can heal a princess?" Liam shook his head. "I don't know. It helped her, that's enough." The nobles murmured among themselves. Such simple words seemed to make no sense, but the truth was before their eyes. Elira's eyes met Liam's, filled with gratitude. She had felt the difference. She had felt alive again. The Velari scientists scanned her body. The readings were strange. Her cells, damaged by the energy weapon, were repairing themselves in ways the machines could not explain. Doctors like Dr. Selena Dorn and Nurse Riker found nothing in their instruments to justify her recovery. Yet they could not argue with reality. The human's touch had worked. The entire royal family, when summoned, would be shocked to see her alive, healed by a method they had never valued. Through the night, Liam stayed by her side. He held her hand and whispered to her when she shivered. She began to relax fully for the first time. The Velari were used to machines and chemicals, to cold calculations of medicine. They did not understand warmth, empathy, or the power of simple human touch. Liam did not know why it worked fully, only that it did. He kept her alive while the desert winds howled around them and the stars shone silently above. By morning, Elira could sit up with help. Her burns no longer glowed as sharply and her breathing was calm. Liam smiled faintly. "See, you're stronger than they think." She smiled weakly in return. For the first time in her life, she realized that humans could do something her own people could not. They could care in ways that healed not just the body but the spirit. Soon, other soldiers returned to check on the site. They were stunned. The princess was alive. The human medic was still beside her. Questions flew, but Liam only answered simply, "I stayed." That is all. The Velari officers could not understand. Their advanced devices had failed. Their rules had failed. A simple human had succeeded where their empire could not. Elira, feeling better, placed her hand over Liam's. She tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. "Thank you." Liam squeezed her hand gently. "You don't need to thank me, just rest. That is all that matters." She looked at him with wide, astonished eyes. The royal family, when they came, would see a miracle. Not of machines, not of science, but of the simple human touch that refused to leave her side. As the sun rose higher, casting light over the red sands, Liam and Elira sat quietly. The wind carried the distant sounds of approaching patrols, of orders being given. Yet in that quiet moment, nothing else mattered. The princess was alive. The human had stayed. And in that simple act, something incredible had begun. Something that would shock an empire and change the way humans were seen across the galaxy. Hours later, when the Queen and Prince Kythe finally arrived with reinforcements, they could not believe their eyes. Elira was upright, breathing steadily, and a human soldier was still beside her, holding her hand. The Queen's eyes widened in shock. The prince looked as if he had seen a ghost. No one had expected this. They expected a corpse. They expected sorrow. Instead, they found life. And they found it in a way no one had ever imagined, through the quiet, unassuming care of a human being. Liam did not step forward to explain. He only looked at the princess, who was now smiling faintly, and said, "She is strong. She will be fine." That was all. The Velari, for the first time, understood that humans could bring something different to the galaxy, something powerful, something impossible to measure by machines. And in that moment, the first seeds of a new respect for humanity were planted. The next morning, the Velari royal convoy was quiet. Princess Elira had slept through most of the night, resting under the watchful eye of Liam Carter. The desert wind had calmed, and the red sands glowed softly in the early sun. The Queen and Prince Kaith had called a meeting with their advisors, trying to understand what had happened. Every scan, every report said the same thing. The princess should have died. Yet here she was, alive and healing. Scientists and doctors surrounded her transport. Dr. Selina Dorn and Nurse Riker checked the readings again and again, muttering in disbelief. Their instruments showed that the damaged tissue was repairing at an unusual rate, far beyond what any Velari healing device could achieve. Energy beams, nanobots, chemical compounds, all of it had failed in the field. Yet now, with Liam's constant care, Alira's body was improving steadily. Queen Meryl entered the shaded area, her long robes brushing the sand. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear and confusion. How is this possible?" she asked, her voice trembling. The Queen's hand rested on her chest as if the shock had stopped her heart. Liam stood quietly beside the princess, brushing her hair from her forehead. He spoke calmly. "I stayed with her. I treated her injuries as best I could. That is all." The Queen stared at him. "All. You are a human. Humans are fragile, weak. Your touch, you expect us to believe that a human hand healed my daughter." Liam shook his head gently. "I do not know why it works. I only know she is alive. She is stronger now than before." He glanced at Alira. She was awake, her breathing steady, eyes bright for the first time since the attack. She reached for Liam's hand and squeezed it slightly. The prince stepped forward, his expression hard. "You do not understand. Our technology is precise. We measure every factor. Yet she recovers under your human care. It is impossible." He scanned the readings himself. The numbers were true. The cells were repairing, the burns fading. Nothing could explain it. The Velari had never seen healing like this except in legends. Alira weakly lifted her head. It hurts less when he is near," she said softly. The words were barely audible, but everyone heard them. The Queen gasped and the prince frowned, confused. The human," the princess nodded slightly. "His hand, it helps. I feel safe." Her voice trembled. She had never been so honest with anyone, not even her closest guards. She had trusted Liam completely in the darkness of her fear. Liam knelt beside her and touched her shoulder gently. "You are safe. I will not leave you. We will make sure you are okay." The Queen's jaw tightened. She had always believed in machines and science, never human warmth. And yet here in front of her eyes that warmth was keeping her daughter alive. She wanted to question it, to reject it. But the facts could not be ignored. The Velari guards and doctors watched silently. Whispers spread among the nobles. They were debating quietly, some arguing that this was a coincidence, others afraid to admit the truth. Dr. Selina Dorn spoke softly to the Queen. "Your Majesty, the human's presence seems to trigger a biological response we cannot measure. It is unlike any therapy we know." The Queen shook her head. "We do not need fairy tales. My daughter is alive, yes, but why? It should not be possible." Nurse Riker added, "We have repeated scans. Every machine confirms it. The healing happens faster when he is close. We cannot explain it with science alone." The Queen's eyes flicked to Liam. "You claim you did nothing special," he nodded. "Nothing the princess herself could not do. I stayed. I cared. That is all." The words were simple, but the impact was enormous. Velari leaders had never thought care could matter, yet now it had. As the sun rose higher, Liam helped Alira to sit up on a mat in the shade. Her body was fragile, but her posture was steady. He supported her carefully, speaking softly to encourage her. "You are stronger than you think. Take your time. You are doing well." Alira smiled faintly, the first genuine smile she had shown since the attack. It was small, but it shone with relief and trust. She looked at Liam with gratitude. Outside the shaded area, Velari soldiers moved cautiously. They had been trained to follow orders, to obey without question, but here, the rules seemed irrelevant. The humans had acted against every expectation. Liam had stayed behind when they retreated. He had ignored the warnings. He had saved the princess when all others thought it was too late. Some soldiers whispered quietly, fear and wonder in their voices. "Do you see that?" one guard asked another. "He is just a human, yet the princess, she responds to him." The other shook his head. "It cannot be. Humans are weak. They cannot survive harsh conditions. Yet here she is alive, with him." The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time they began to question their assumptions. Humans were fragile, yes, but maybe there was more to them than strength and technology. Maybe there was something else. Inside the shaded area, Alira spoke again. Tell me a story," she said softly. Liam nodded. He began recounting simple tales of human life, how people could survive wars, build homes, care for each other, and still laugh. He spoke of courage, of small acts of kindness, of humans helping each other when machines could not. Alira listened, her breathing steady. The glow of her wounds faded slightly. Her body seemed to respond to his words, to his presence. Queen Meryl watched silently, her mind racing. She had ruled the empire for decades. She had seen science conquer disease, technology shape empires. Yet here was a miracle she could not explain. A human had healed her daughter not with machines or compounds, but with simple care and presence. She felt a strange mix of fear and respect. The queen had to admit, though silently, that humans had power beyond her understanding. Prince Kaith approached Liam cautiously. Do you expect us to honor this? To recognize that your touch healed her?" Liam shook his head. "I do not need honor. I only stayed. The princess is alive. That is enough." The prince frowned, unsure how to respond. In Velari society, respect and rank were earned through achievement, not simple acts of care. Yet here, achievement had taken a different form, beyond science, beyond weapons. Alira reached for Liam's hand again. "Thank you for staying," she whispered. The warmth of her hand was soft, her eyes bright. Liam held her hand gently, feeling the small but steady pulse of life. He smiled faintly. "You do not need to thank me. Rest. We will get you strong again." She leaned slightly against him, comforted by his presence. For the first time since the attack, she felt safe, truly safe. Through the day, Liam continued his simple care. He applied cooling gels to the burns, helped her drink water, and adjusted blankets to keep her warm. He spoke softly, encouraging small movements, praising her when she lifted her head or moved an arm. Her body responded. It was not fast, but it was steady. The Velari doctors could not explain it, but they could see it clearly. Care, human presence, empathy, these things mattered. Outside, the desert remained harsh. Patrols returned, scanning the area. Some soldiers muttered about human weakness, about fragile bodies and fragile minds. Yet when they saw Alira moving, sitting upright with Liam beside her, their doubts grew. The humans were weak in body, yes, but their spirit, their way of being, could do what machines could not. The Empire had never seen this before. It was confusing, but it was real. By evening, Alira was able to sit fully on her own. She still needed support, but she smiled faintly at Liam. "I feel better," she said simply. He nodded. "Yes, you are healing." Slowly but surely. The queen and prince observed quietly from a distance, unable to hide their shock. The princess had recovered beyond expectation, and a simple human hand had made the difference. Dr. Selina Dorn examined the readings again. "There is no doubt. Her recovery is linked to his presence. Nothing else explains it." Nurse Riker added, "It is as if he is more than a medic. He is a healer in a way we do not understand." The queen, hearing this, took a deep breath. She had always believed in logic, in precision, in rules. Yet here was a human defying all of it. She did not know what to do, only that she had to accept it. That night, as the stars appeared over the red desert, Liam sat beside Alira. She rested her head on his shoulder slightly, feeling the calm, steady warmth of his presence. "I did not think I would survive," she whispered softly. He smiled faintly. "You are stronger than you think, and you are not alone." The Veleri guards and nobles watched silently. The impossible had happened. A human had healed a princess simply by being there, caring, and staying. As the desert wind whispered over the sands, the first seeds of change began to grow. Humans were no longer just fragile allies. They were beings whose empathy, care, and presence could influence life itself. The Velari, proud and cautious, would take notice. And for Princess Alira, the human beside her was not just a soldier or a medic. He was a lifeline, a source of hope in a universe that often valued strength over kindness. And so, the day ended with quiet understanding. The princess was alive, her body healing faster than anyone could explain. The Empire had witnessed something unexpected. And Liam Carter, the human who had refused to leave, had begun a story that would echo far beyond the red deserts of Velara. By the next morning, the desert was calm, and the sun rose slowly over the red sands. Princess Alira was sitting upright, supported by Liam Carter, the human medic who had refused to leave her side. Her breathing was steady, her burns fading. The royal family had arrived in full, and the entire convoy was quiet, watching the impossible scene before them. Queen Meryl approached cautiously, her long robes brushing the sand. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. "Alira," she said softly, almost afraid to speak. The princess looked up and smiled faintly. She felt stronger than she had in days. The queen's voice trembled as she continued. How are you alive? Every reading, every report said you would not survive." Alira touched her own side, still feeling the faint warmth from Liam's hand. She looked at him and whispered, "He helped me. He stayed with me." The queen turned sharply to Liam. "You, the human, tell me this is not true." Liam shook his head slowly. "I stayed, I cared, that is all." The queen's hand trembled as she clenched it. She had ruled for decades and never witnessed anything like this. Technology, medicine, energy fields, they had always worked. Yet here was a human whose simple presence had achieved what machines could not. Prince Kaith stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "You expect us to accept that a fragile human healed a princess while our advanced science failed?" Liam looked at him calmly. "I do not know why it works. I only know she is alive and stronger now." The prince stared, speechless. He could see it clearly. The princess's burns were fading, her breathing steady. The impossible had happened. He could not argue with reality. Dr. Selina Dorn and Nurse Riker examined their instruments again. The readings were consistent. Wherever Liam touched or stayed near Alira, her cells regenerated faster. It was as if his presence sent a signal that machines and chemicals could not replicate. Dr. Dorn whispered to the queen, "Your Majesty, this is beyond anything we understand. The human's presence is affecting her biology in ways we cannot measure." The queen shook her head. "It cannot be. It defies every rule we know." Alira looked at her mother, then at Liam. I felt safe. When he stayed, the pain faded. I could breathe." Her voice was soft but firm. The queen's face softened slightly, though her mind was still racing. The idea that a human touch, something so simple, so ordinary, could heal her daughter was almost unbearable. It went against every teaching of the Empire. Yet the truth was before her eyes. Nobles whispered among themselves, their voices low but filled with shock. "It cannot be," one said. "A human healing a princess." Another shook his head. "We are witnessing a miracle. Not of machines, not of science, but of care." The queen listened, her own doubts mixing with awe. She had always valued precision, technology, and discipline. Now she realized that there was a force she had never considered: empathy. Liam helped Alira to stand slowly. She swayed at first but then steadied herself. "See," he said gently, "you are stronger than you think." The princess nodded. She had begun to believe it too. Every step felt lighter, every breath easier. She glanced at her mother. He helped me more than anyone else could." Queen Meryl's lips pressed together. She did not speak. She could not yet. The truth was too strange, too alien to her understanding. Prince Kaith walked around Liam, studying him closely. How do you do this? Humans are weak. Your species cannot endure harsh conditions, yet here your presence restores life. Liam smiled faintly. I do not know why, I only know it works. Caring, being present, speaking calmly, it makes a difference. That is all. The prince shook his head slowly. For the first time he began to doubt the teachings he had trusted all his life. Strength was not only in weapons or technology, perhaps it was also in kindness. Alira took Liam's hand again. Stay with me, she said softly. Please, Liam nodded. I will. As long as you need me. The queen watched them quietly. The scene was simple, almost ordinary, yet it held a power that machines, armies, and rules could not match. The Empire had never seen this before. Humans had a gift the Velari had never considered. Scientists continued their scans, but the data only confirmed what they already saw. Wherever Liam remained, Alira's healing accelerated. Energy readings were stable, her cells regenerating at unusual rates. Dr. Dorn spoke quietly to a junior researcher. We have studied alien biology for decades. This is something we cannot explain. It is as if emotional connection affects physical recovery. The young researcher's eyes widened. Emotional connection, you mean humans can heal with care? Dr. Dorn nodded. It appears so. At least in this case. Guards and soldiers shifted uneasily. They had been trained to rely on technology, on weapons, on cold strategy. Yet here, a fragile human had saved a princess in ways they could not understand. Whispers of fear and awe spread among them. Liam had acted alone, refusing to retreat when others would have left. The soldiers could not deny it. Humans were not as weak as they had believed. They were different but powerful in ways that mattered. As the day continued, Liam spoke quietly to Alira, telling her stories of humans, of courage, compassion, and survival. She listened intently. With each word, her strength grew. She moved her arms, then her legs, testing her body. The burns still stung, but less than before. She could breathe more deeply. She looked at Liam and smiled faintly. You make it easier, she said. He nodded. That is what I am here for. You are not alone. Queen Meryl approached again, this time more slowly. She observed the scene without speaking. The princess was moving, breathing, and responding to the human's care. The queen's mind raced. Her empire had been built on technology, on knowledge, on control. Yet none of it could achieve what this human had done. She realized that humans had something unique: empathy, presence, care. Something her empire had ignored for centuries. Prince Kaith's expression changed as well. He watched Liam guide Alira, helping her balance, encouraging small movements. His eyes narrowed, not with anger but with contemplation. Perhaps we have underestimated humans, he muttered quietly. The words were almost lost in the desert wind, but Liam heard them. He nodded slightly. Humans were different. Fragile, yes, but their strength was not always visible. It was quiet, persistent, and powerful. The nobles began to debate loudly, their voices echoing through the shaded area. Some argued that this was a coincidence, that the human had only assisted in small ways. Others whispered that it was more than coincidence, that a human hand, a human presence, had changed the course of a princess's life. The queen listened, uncertain, but she could not deny the truth. Alira's recovery was real, and it was linked to the human beside her. Alira reached for Liam's hand again. I want to walk, she said softly. Help me. Liam smiled and guided her to stand. She took small steps, wobbly at first but steadying herself with each one. Her face lit with determination. The Velari nobles gasped as they watched. This was progress faster than any machine could achieve. The princess moved under human guidance, not science, not technology, not energy fields. Human care was doing what their empire could not. By evening, Alira was able to walk short distances without assistance. Liam stayed close, speaking softly, encouraging her. Her strength was growing steadily. The queen and prince watched silently, unable to hide their astonishment. The princess had been saved not by science, not by weapons, but by a human who refused to leave. It was a lesson none of them had expected, and one they would not forget. Dr. Selina Dorn approached the queen quietly. "Your Majesty, the human's presence is influencing the princess's recovery at a cellular level. It is as if his empathy is a healing force." The queen frowned, unsure how to respond. "Empathy, a human emotion, affects biology," she whispered. Dr. Dorn nodded. "It appears so. We cannot measure it fully, but the effect is undeniable." The queen looked at Liam, and for the first time she felt respect mingled with disbelief. This fragile human had done what her empire could not. As night fell, stars sparkled over the red desert. Alira sat beside Liam, her hand in his. She was tired but content, her body stronger than it had been in days. "Thank you for staying," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "You do not need to thank me. Rest, that is all that matters." The Velari nobles and guards watched quietly. The impossible had happened. A human had healed a princess not through machines, not through advanced science, but through care, presence, and persistence. And as the night deepened, the first seeds of doubt and respect took root in the minds of the Velari. Humans were not weak. They were not fragile in the ways they had believed. They were different, yes, but powerful in a way the Empire had never seen before. The Queen and Prince would never forget it. The Empire would never forget it. And Princess Alira would always remember the human who had stayed when no one else would, and who had changed her life with something as simple and as extraordinary as a touch the morning sun rose over the red sands of Velara. Princess Alira was already awake, sitting up and stretching slowly. Her body was stronger than the day before, and her burns had faded to pale marks. Liam Carter, the human medic who had saved her life, sat nearby, watching her carefully. His calm presence had become a steady part of her recovery, and she relied on it more than she realized. Queen Meryl and Prince Kaith observed from a short distance, silent but tense. The royal family could not deny the change in their daughter. She moved more easily, smiled more often, and spoke with clarity. The transformation was not just physical. The princess seemed brighter, more alert, and filled with a calm confidence. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, a mix of disbelief and curiosity in her gaze. Alira looked at Liam and whispered, "I want to walk further today." He nodded. "We will, step by step, carefully. I will be here." She gripped his hand, and with his support she rose. Her legs were steady, her balance improving. The queen gasped softly. She had never imagined a human could do what Liam had done. Advanced Velari healing devices, nanobots, energy fields, none had worked. A human hand, simple and warm, had achieved more than all their science combined. Liam guided Alira across the shaded area, speaking softly, encouraging her with every step. "Good, steady. You are stronger than yesterday. See how much you can do," she smiled faintly. I feel stronger," she admitted. The queen exchanged a look with her advisors. The Empire had always valued strength, power, and technology. Now they were witnessing something that challenged everything they had believed. Outside the shaded area, guards whispered nervously among themselves. "She is walking," one said quietly. And the human, he did not use any machines, no tools, just him. Another shook his head. "It is impossible, yet we see it with our own eyes. Maybe humans are more than we thought." Even the soldiers, trained to depend on rules and strategy, felt a small shift in understanding. Humans were fragile, yes, but they had something Velari had never considered: empathy and care. Liam helped Alira practice small movements. He held her hands, supported her back, and spoke calmly, repeating encouraging words. "You are doing very well, one step at a time. You can do this." Alira's face lit with determination. She tried to walk farther without support, and Liam stayed close, ready to catch her if she faltered. Her confidence grew with every step. The warmth of his presence seemed to energize her body. The glow of her burns was nearly gone. Queen Meryl finally stepped closer. "I still do not understand," she said softly. "How can a human presence do what machines cannot? How can simple care heal a princess?" Liam looked at her calmly. "I do not know why it works. I only know it does. Being present, showing care, speaking kindly, it makes a difference. That is all." The queen's eyes widened. She had ruled the empire for decades and believed in the power of technology above all else. Now she faced proof that humans had a power beyond measurement. Prince Kaith studied Liam with a thoughtful expression. "Your species, it is different from ours," he said. "We rely on strength, energy, logic. Yet here you have healed where we failed." "It is disturbing but undeniable," Liam nodded. "Humans are different, fragile in some ways, strong in others. We care. It is simple but powerful." The prince looked at his sister, seeing her walk confidently beside Liam. She smiled at him briefly. The prince could not argue. The evidence was right before his eyes. Alira spoke softly to Liam. "Why do you stay? You do not have to risk yourself." He smiled faintly. "Because it matters. Someone has to care. That is enough." She nodded. Her voice trembled slightly. "You make it easier. I feel safe with you." Liam gently brushed her hair back. "You are not alone. You will get stronger every day. I will stay." The royal guards, once skeptical and dismissive of humans, began to watch more closely. They could see her recovery accelerating. Her strength was growing steadily, and her body was responding not to technology but to presence, patience, and care. Whispers of doubt and fear spread among them. If a human could do this, what else could humans achieve? Their understanding of the fragile species was changing quickly. Dr. Selena Dorn and Nurse Riker continued to monitor the princess. The readings were clear. Alira's cells regenerated faster when Liam was near. Every test, every scan confirmed it. Emotional presence affected biological recovery. Dr. Dorn spoke to the Queen quietly. "Your Majesty, it appears humans have a unique form of influence. Their care, their attention, affects other beings' biology in ways we cannot yet measure." The Queen's face softened. She had always valued rules and calculations, yet she could not deny the results. Humans were extraordinary in ways the Empire had never imagined. As the day continued, Liam helped Alira walk further and perform small movements. He spoke calmly, telling her stories of human life, bravery, and small acts of kindness. She laughed softly at some stories, her spirit lifting with each word. The warmth of his presence comforted her, eased her pain, and strengthened her resolve. Her eyes sparkled with life, and the Queen and Prince could not hide their astonishment. Prince Kaith muttered to an advisor quietly, "Perhaps humans are not as weak as we believed. Their strength is not in their bodies but in their spirit." The advisor nodded slowly. "It seems so. The princess responds to him in ways no technology can replicate. It is extraordinary." Queen Meryl listened silently, her mind racing. She had always valued power, science, and control. Now she realized that there were things humans could do that the Empire could not. Something simple, yet powerful: care. As evening approached, Alira sat down beside Liam. She leaned slightly against him, feeling calm and safe. "I am glad you stayed," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "I will always stay. You are not alone." The Queen and Prince observed quietly. Their daughter's recovery was more than physical. It was emotional, spiritual. Humans had brought life in ways their science could not. Outside the shaded area, guards and nobles discussed quietly. "We underestimated humans," one said. "They are fragile, yes, but they have power beyond machines and weapons." Another nodded. "Empathy, care, presence, these are things we cannot measure, yet they save lives." The realization spread slowly among the Empire's leaders. Humans were different, but their difference was remarkable. Alira reached for Liam's hand again. "Tomorrow, I want to walk further," she said softly. He nodded. "Yes, step by step you will walk as far as you need. I will be here." The princess's confidence grew with every word. Her body responded to the care and presence of the human beside her. Each step was a victory, each movement a testament to human strength in ways Velari science could not measure. That night, stars sparkled over the desert. The princess lay on a mat beside Liam, her hand in his. She was tired but content. "Thank you for staying," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Rest. That is all that matters. You will continue to grow stronger." The Velari nobles and guards watched quietly. Their assumptions about humans were changing. What they once called fragile was now extraordinary. Humans could heal, protect, and inspire in ways the Empire had never considered. As the desert wind whispered across the sands, the first seeds of respect for humans grew. They were not just allies or weak species. They were beings whose empathy, care, and presence could influence life itself. Queen Meryl and Prince Kythe realized that humans had a gift the Velari had ignored for centuries. The princess, now stronger and more confident, had been saved by something beyond science, simple, consistent human care. Alira looked at Liam, her eyes bright. "I will never forget this," she said softly. He nodded. "You do not have to. I will stay beside you until you are fully strong. Together we will continue." The stars shone above the desert, and the Empire, for the first time, truly saw humans differently. They were fragile in body, yes, but powerful in spirit. And the human beside the princess had proven it to all. The night ended quietly, but the lessons were clear. The Empire had seen something new, something it could not measure with machines, scans, or energy fields. Humans had power beyond comprehension. And for Princess Alira, the human who stayed, cared, and healed her would always be remembered as the one who changed everything the next morning. The desert was calm. Princess Alira sat upright, fully alert, her body strong and steady. The burns that had once glowed blue were now faint pale marks. She looked around and saw Liam Carter, the human medic who had stayed with her through every hour of pain, watching her carefully. His calm presence had become her anchor, his quiet care the reason she had survived. Queen Meryl and Prince Kythe approached slowly. The royal family had gathered in full. Advisors, guards, and nobles all stood at a respectful distance. There was a tense silence. Every eye was on the princess. She moved easily, no longer weak, no longer trembling. The impossible had been achieved, she had fully recovered. Queen Meryl's voice was quiet but filled with awe. "Alira, you are alive and strong, fully healed." Alira smiled faintly. "I am," she said softly, glancing at Liam. "And it is because he stayed. He cared for me." The queen's eyes widened, her mind racing. She had ruled the empire for decades, relying on technology, science, and strict order. Yet now, a human had done what none of her empire's tools could achieve. Prince Kythe stepped forward, his expression a mix of disbelief and respect. "It cannot be explained," he said. "Our advanced machines failed. Energy treatments, nanobots, compounds, all failed. And yet she recovers fully under the care of a human." Liam shook his head calmly. "I do not know why it works. I only know it does. Being present, showing care, speaking kindly, that is enough." The queen's eyes softened. She realized she could not argue with the facts. A human had healed her daughter not with machines, not with science, not with strategy or force, but with something much simpler and more powerful: presence and empathy. She looked at Liam, her mind filled with new understanding. Humans were fragile, yes, but in ways the Empire had never measured, they were strong. Alira stood fully now, walking without support. Her steps were steady and confident. "See," Liam said gently, "you are strong, you have always been. I only helped you believe it." She smiled at him. The princess's energy had returned. She felt alive, whole, and free from the fear and pain that had haunted her since the attack. Outside the shaded area, the guards and nobles murmured among themselves. Whispers spread quickly. "The human, he healed the princess," one said. "We were wrong about them," another replied. Soldiers and officers had long believed humans were weak and fragile. Now they had seen the truth with their own eyes. Humans were different, yes, but their difference made them extraordinary. They had the power to influence life in ways Velari machines could not. Dr. Selina Dorn and Nurse Riker examined their instruments one last time. The readings were clear. Alira's cells had regenerated fully, her energy levels were normal, and her body was completely restored. Dr. Dorn whispered to the Queen, "Your Majesty, it is undeniable. The human's presence was the key factor. His empathy, his care, his attention, it influenced her recovery in ways we cannot measure." The Queen nodded slowly, deep in thought. She had always valued precision and logic, yet here was proof that human presence could change life itself. Alira turned to the gathered nobles and soldiers. "He stayed when no one else would," she said softly, looking at Liam. "He did not leave me. He helped me when it seemed impossible. He cared." Her words were simple, but their meaning was powerful. The crowd was silent, absorbing the truth. The princess had survived and fully recovered because a human had refused to abandon her. Queen Meryl stepped forward and addressed Liam directly. "We owe you more than words can say. You have saved my daughter's life. Our empire, we cannot ignore this." Liam shook his head gently. "I do not need thanks. I only stayed, that is all." The Queen studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful. Today we have learned this lesson." Prince Kaith spoke next. "Humans, we believe them fragile and weak, yet we have seen their strength. It is not in weapons, not in machines, not in science, but in their care and persistence. Perhaps we have underestimated them." The nobles whispered among themselves. This revelation challenged everything they had known. Humans were no longer just allies. They were beings whose presence could change life itself. Alira held Liam's hand, smiling brightly now. "You are part of my life forever," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "I only did what anyone should do: stay, care, and help when needed." The simplicity of his words carried great weight. The Empire and the princess herself realized that strength could come from quiet acts of compassion, not just power or technology. The day passed slowly, and Liam continued to assist Alira. He encouraged her to walk longer distances, to move with confidence, and to use her body fully again. Each step she took was a reminder to everyone watching. Humans had a different kind of power. It was quiet, persistent, and life-changing. The guards and nobles could not deny it. They had seen it with their own eyes. By evening, Alira was able to walk across the desert sands without support. She laughed softly as she moved, her spirit lifted. The Queen and Prince watched quietly, their expressions softened with awe and respect. The princess's recovery was complete, and it had been achieved not by advanced technology, but by the simple, consistent presence of a human who refused to abandon her. Dr. Dorn approached the Queen. "Your Majesty, we must reconsider our understanding of humans. Their empathy, their care, their presence. It is something we cannot measure, yet it is clearly powerful." The Queen nodded slowly. "Yes, we will study this. We will honor this. Humans have taught us something invaluable." Alira turned to Liam, her eyes shining. "I will never forget this," she said. "You saved me." He smiled faintly. "You do not need to thank me, just continue to grow stronger. I will stay until you are fully healed." She nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She had experienced something no one in the Empire had ever imagined: the healing power of human care. That night, stars sparkled over the red desert, casting silver light over the convoy. Liam and Alira sat together, quietly resting. The Empire had witnessed a miracle, one that could not be explained by science alone. Humans had power beyond measurement. Their empathy, care, and presence could influence life itself. The royal family, the guards, and the nobles all realized this truth. Queen Meryl finally spoke. "Humans, we have judged them wrongly for centuries. We have relied on technology, rules, and force. Yet we have seen today that their power lies elsewhere, in their hearts, in their care, in their willingness to stay when others would leave. Prince Kaith nodded slowly. Yes, humans are different, yes, but extraordinary in ways we could never imagine. Today we have seen it. Alira leaned slightly against Liam, her hand in his. "Thank you," she whispered again, softly but firmly. He smiled faintly. "Rest. You are safe now. We will face the future together." The stars shone above, silent witnesses to the truth. Humans had a gift the Velari had ignored for centuries. Their presence could heal, protect, and inspire. The Empire would never forget it. Over the next few days, Alira regained her full strength. She moved confidently, spoke clearly, and laughed freely. The human beside her remained her constant companion, guiding, encouraging, and caring. Soldiers and nobles began to look at humans differently. What they had called fragile was now seen as powerful in unexpected ways. They had witnessed life saved, a princess healed, and a miracle achieved, not through machines, not through energy, but through empathy and care. Queen Meryl held a council meeting to announce a new understanding. "Today, we have learned that humans possess a power our empire has ignored," she said. "Their presence, their care, and their empathy can heal where machines fail. We must honor this, respect this, and learn from it. Humans are not weak, they are extraordinary." The nobles nodded, some in disbelief, some in awe, but all silent in respect. Alira stood beside Liam. "My life was saved because he stayed, he cared. He believed in me when no one else did." She smiled at him and he nodded simply. "You are strong," he said, "and you will continue to grow." The Empire had seen it, and the lesson was clear. Humans were more than fragile beings. They were powerful in ways no one had measured before. As the desert night fell, Liam prepared to return to his duties. He would not stay in the spotlight. He had done what he needed to do. The princess walked beside him, stronger, alive, and confident. The queen and prince watched silently. The Empire would never forget the human who changed everything with a simple act of care. Alira stopped and turned to Liam. "Thank you," she said again, "for staying, for helping me, for believing in me." He smiled faintly. "You do not need to thank me. You are alive. You are strong. That is enough." She nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and hope. The Empire had learned a lesson it would carry forever. Humans had power beyond technology, beyond science, beyond expectations. And so the princess fully recovered. The Empire's perception of humans changed forever. And Liam Carter, the human who had refused to leave, quietly returned to his duties. The stars shone above the red desert, silent witnesses to the truth. A human touch had healed a princess, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Empire would never forget the day when compassion, care, and presence triumphed over machines, energy, and pride. And Princess Alira, forever grateful, would always remember the human who changed her life with something so simple, yet so powerful.